In this demonstration of SheetCutter and TemplateDesigner, I would like to generate alignment sheets for this centerline. As you can see in my map, I have other centerlines where the work has already been done. These already have map windows and alignment sheets, but this one does not, so we'll focus our efforts here. Now before we get ahead of ourselves, I want to make mention that I have an existing template ready to go. As you can see, it's called the As-Built template, and it already has a variety of referenced bands along it. Now, in this template, the map occupies most of the screen space. Foreign line crossings are along the top, pipe information below the map, followed by high consequence area, environmentally sensitive area. There's a profile band showing top of ground and top of pipe. Finally, there's a coding and section summary, an inset map, and some auto text. So for the sake of this demonstration, this template already exists, and as a friendly reminder, it's called the As-Built template. What we'll do is we'll generate alignment sheets for that center line using this template. Then we'll come back here, make some changes so you get a sense of how that would work, and we'll regenerate to see the difference. Just to give you a visual, when everything is all set and done, the final product will look like this. We'll have our crossings along the top properly stationed. We'll have the center line over a base map. We'll have pipe information, high consequence area, environmentally sensitive area. There's the profile band. There are those tables at the bottom, the inset map, and the auto text. So this is our end game. Let's return to our center line to get going. One thing to note is that SheetCutter has its own table of contents pane, as does TemplateDesigner. While inside the SheetCutter pane, you have a quick launch toolbar. This toolbar provides the core SheetCutter tools that you need to get your job done. In fact, if you work this toolbar left to right, you are following a sequence of steps that will get you to the final product. The first tool is to place your map windows. So let's start right there. This center line does not have map windows. The map windows will borrow the map size and shape off your template. So notice on our template this map is sort of a long rectangle. So when we're done placing map windows, you'll see that the map windows are also long rectangles. What I will do is select my center line and then click on Place Map Windows. This dialog is asking which template would I like to borrow the map size from, and I want it from the As-Built template. I will use a scale of 1 to 6,000. In terms of placing map windows, I do have a few choices, and I'm going to go with the automatic. The automatic is a best fit approach. SheetCutter will find the fewest number of windows necessary to cover the entire extent of this center line. It will also automatically rotate them to follow the contours of the geometry. For the naming convention, I could either type it out or I could point to a field. In fact, my centerline has the name in the description field, so I will simply point to it. Then SheetCutter will number my windows, starting with 1 and ending with the highest number. With all of this set, I will click on OK. As you can see, SheetCutter has generated 9 map windows to cover this extent. Notice in my table of contents, it's saying Santa Clarita to Palmdale. That's the name it got from the description field in my centerline feature class. In short, it took 9 windows to cover this extent. My second tool is calculating match lines. If we look back at that PDF, the stationing begins at a match line and it ends at a match line. What you'll find is that all of your linear referenced bands fit inside those 2 match lines. It gives you continuity and a nice clean look to your final product. Over in SheetCutter, we will calculate where those match lines should be. What the system will do is it will find the middle of the overlap between the map windows. There's an overlap, by the way, so that no feature is cut in half on any one window. The same feature could be found on either side, and that way you don't get any awkward splicing of some of your facilities. So, with these 9 map windows selected, I will click on Calculate Match Lines. It has recognized all 9 windows. It has recognized the center line, Santa Clarita to Palmdale. So as a user, my one decision is Station Precision. Now, let's go back to that PDF real quick, because the Station Precision dictates the rounding of these match lines. For example, the dead center of an overlap could be 1048.62. That would be sort of an awkward number to be your begin match line. So Station Precision allows you to move that match line up or down. You can move it to the nearest 100, the nearest 1000. You can move it to the nearest 10th. It's up to you. But what it will do is it will find the middle of the overlap, but then adjust it according to your Station Precision. I'll go with 100 and click OK. Notice, among all of my map windows, I now have a match line. These white circles are placeholders. The template decides what the match line should look like on the final product, and it's going to look like that short, thin black line. So, I've got my map windows and my match lines. The next thing to do is to associate it to the as-built template. Notice my next tool is called New Sheet. In this process, I get to choose the template I would like to generate and for which route. In this case, I have a single route, and I'll assign it to the template. Really, all I'm doing is informing the system which route should the template showcase in all of its calculations. With this, I will click OK. As you can see, each of the 9 map windows now has the as-built template associated to it. In terms of our Quick Launch toolbar, we have placed the map windows, we've calculated match lines, we've added the templates. The last step along the way is to generate the final product. For this, I will use map window number 2 and then click Generate. In terms of the generation, you can generate to PDF, to a map document or MXD, to an image, or send it straight to the printer. You can also combine these, so if you wanted a PDF and an image, you certainly could. I'll stick with just a single PDF. I'm going to take the default settings, and I'm exporting this PDF to a file on my C drive. You could, of course, export to a shared drive if you would prefer, but this will work for the sake of the demonstration. So, with all of this set, I will click OK. Okay, the PDF is ready, and let's check it out. As you can see, I've got my center line symbolized in red. I have my foreign line crossing stationed along the top. And we have our pipe information, high consequence area, environmentally sensitive area, the profile, table, and inset, everything we saw before. So with just a few tools, I was able to start with a blank center line and wind up with finished PDF products. Looking at this template, I want to make a few adjustments to it. First of all, crossings. These crossings right now are coming from a linear referenced table. I have a table that has the series and stationing for all these crossings, and so it's simply broadcasting them on this crossings band. However, I'm noticing that my center line also crosses these waterways. This is a GIS feature. It's just a polyline out of a geodatabase. And I would like the same information in the crossings band. Now, I don't have these stationed. What I'm going to do is add the streams or waterways to my crossings band, and SheetCutter will just calculate the series and stationing for me on the fly. So that's one thing I'd like to do. Another thing I'd like to do is I have major road crossings in my database, and I would like to show those major road crossings on the profile band. In other words, I want to show a symbol for the road crossing, I want to have the stationing, and I want to have the name of that road. Second, I'm streaming Esri imagery, which is fine, but I don't like the fact that the citation is embedded inside the actual map frame. So I'm going to basically decouple the citation from the map, and I'll put the citation right next door. And finally, I currently have sheet number. This was map window number 2. But I'd like some context. I want this to say sheet number 2 of 9. I want to know the final count for this entire center line. So I'd like to add some auto text to adjust that. Finally, I just want a quick color change. I want to make this green line for top of ground just a little bit darker. So just a quick symbol change for my top of ground. With all those changes in mind, let's head back to the template. The easiest one to do is that color change. In my profile band, I'm referencing both top of pipe and top of ground. Right there is the color for top of ground, so I will double click it and pick a new symbol. And what I'll do is just change the green. In fact, I think I'll go a little bit brighter just so we can see the difference on the final product. So I'll change the color, click OK, and save. With that, if I were to run this template again, we would see the top of ground is now a nice bright green. While we're thinking about the profile band, I mentioned that I had major road crossings that I want to show on the profile. So let's take that as our next challenge. What I'll do is double click the profile band. I currently am pointing to top of ground and top of pipe, and now I'm going to add a data source. I'm going to click add, and I have these road crossings as a feature. When adding a data source to a chart, I can either plot it independently, but what I'm going to do is actually plot it on top of an existing data source. I want my road crossings to appear on the top of ground. So I need to inform it that I want to plot on top of ground, and I want to label. Then it wants to know, where am I getting my data? I'll call it road crossings. That name is up to me. And then I'll point to my GIS layer, also called road crossings. I want to display them as points. And finally, for my labeling, I want to pick the description field. So in my table of road crossings, I have the names of those streets, and I want to bring that into my map. So I'm going to go find that row. It happens to be called description. And I'll bring it in. Quick preview, it says Vista Highway. I know I selected the correct column. In short, I've asked it to plot my major road crossings on top of the top of ground and bring in the description field to show on my final product. With that, I'll click OK. And my last decision is simply, what do I want the symbol and font and style to be for those major road crossings? Let's check out my data display. Here, I'm going to ask it to bring in my new data source for road crossings. Then I can double click to pick the symbol. So instead of this little blue circle, I'm just going to change it to a kind of a gray circle for a road. That should be just fine, and click OK. And with that, I can click OK to close the changes of my chart band. As you can see in my table of contents, it now has top of pipe, top of ground, and those road crossings. I'll click Save. Speaking of crossings, let's check out my foreign line crossings. I mentioned that I have a streams feature class. This is simply a polyline from a GIS database. If we look at its attribute table, we have some details about these waterways. Some have names, some don't. But I don't have any series or stationing, route, or measure in this data table. I don't have any linear referencing. But that's okay. TemplateDesigner and SheetCutter can calculate that linear referencing on the fly. Just like I added road crossings to my profile band, I will double-click the crossings band, and I will add those streams. It already has my foreign line crossings, which are coming from a linear reference table. But this time I'll click Add, and add my feature data source, meaning a GIS feature. With that, it wants to know, where am I getting my data? I'll call this waterway, and I'll point to the stream layer. I don't need to do any filtering or indexing. And for this description, like I said, some have names, some don't. So instead of pointing to a field, I'm just going to type in some user text and call it waterway. So the preview will simply be waterway. In other words, wherever the center line crosses one of those streams, I will have my stationing, and I want it to simply say waterway. Just like before, I will also check out my data display so I can dictate what do I want the waterway symbol to be. For example, right now my power line crossing kind of looks like that, and my sewer crossing looks like that. So I want to pick a symbol for my waterway crossing. I'll query my data. It found the waterway, and then I can take it from here. For the sake of the demo, I'm just going to grab a nice vertical line symbol from my pipeline font. OK, and with that, I'll click OK. I can see my waterway has appeared in my crossings band, in addition to my foreign line crossings. I'll click Save one more time. The last thing I want to do is just work with that text a little bit. First of all, I wanted to move the imagery citation off the map, and I also wanted to give myself that map window count to give some context on the final product. So first, let's insert the citation. This is actually coming from ArcMap. So in other words, I can use ArcMap's dynamic text in my template, but I'm going to plot the service layer credits. In a nutshell, I'm decoupling the service layer credits from the imagery, and that allows me to dictate where they should be placed. Finally, let's focus on the sheet number. I already have the current sheet, and I want another section of auto text for the total number of map windows. Down below in my band manager, I have a variety of bands available to me. This happens to be a title band. So while we've edited existing bands up to this point, now I'm going to add a brand new band. So I'll double click. This band name will be map count, and it wants to know where it should be positioned. Looking at my rulers, it should be roughly 0.6 inches from the bottom and 32 inches from the left. So 0.6 from the bottom and 32 from the left. Now, I don't worry about that so much right now. Once it's in place, I'll be able to adjust it simply with my mouse. What kind of title band do I want? Well, as you can see, I can have a variety of types. The database path, imagery date, generation date, next sheet, previous sheet, coordinates, and so forth. This one is going to be the map window count. With that, I will click OK. And my map count has appeared. Now, stylistically, I would like the word of to separate the sheet and total count so that it says sheet 2 of 9, for example. So, yet again, I'll head up to the insert and just insert some text with the word of. A quick right-click Properties in order to change its size to 14. Finally, just to make sure they're nice and aligned along the same horizontal plane, I'll select all three, right-click, and align to the bottom. That way it's nice and clean right there. With that, I will click Save. In short, if you need to make template adjustments, whether it's a simple color change or adding a brand new data source, you simply do it in ArcMap. Since I've saved this as-built template, it's ready to go for sheet generation purposes. In fact, let's get back to SheetCutter. I already have map window number 2 selected, so let's generate. All my settings persist, so I will click OK. Okay, it's finished. Let's see how it looks. As you can see, I have my new waterway crossings in my crossings band. It found the direct intersection of centerline and waterway and gave me its equivalent stationing. Recall that my waterway feature class did not have stationing, but it's being provided to me on the fly. Further, if we look at my profile band, clearly I can see that bright green color. That was just a quick change. But I also see my major road crossings and their stationing. And just like the waterway crossing, it's finding those major road crossings and broadcasting them onto my profile band. Further, I can see my service layer credits have been decoupled, no longer occupying space on my map. And finally, I have that nice context for my sheet number, 2 of 9. In short, TemplateDesigner provides a nice user-friendly interface in order to modify your final products. And SheetCutter provides a nice user interface in order to produce those final products, whether it's PDF, map document, image, or straight to the printer. Updates and changes made to your template are automatically reflected the next time you generate sheets in SheetCutter. While I only have one template in this demonstration, you could have many templates associated to the exact same map windows, and you could actually run them all together or even schedule them to run at a later time.